Yes, I bought the Mission Impossible cup. I also got the popcorn bucket because this movie is bloody awesome.
I need you to trust me. One last time.
Final Reckoning takes place a few months after the events of Dead Reckoning. Ethan and his team found the magic MacGuffin key thingy in part 1. Now they need to find the submarine that we saw at the start of Dead Reckoning part 1. They need to steal a thing so they can get a code to unlock a thing and do a heist in order to save the world from Skynet. Sorry, the entity. Plot-wise, it's not exactly reinventing the wheel for a mission movie, but, they are sticking to a tried and tested formula, and when the formula creates movies as good as this, why change it? The whole crew's back. You've got Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, of course, Simon Pegg as Benji, you've got Ving Rhames as Luther, Hayley Atwell's Grace, and Pom Clementif? Anyway, Pom, what's-her-face, Mantis from Guardians, is back as Paris, as well as S.A. Morales as the bad guy, Gabriel. Christopher McQuarrie returns to direct his fourth mission movie after Rogue Nation, Fallout, and Dead Reckoning. The movie opens, as many of the missions do, with Ethan getting a mission briefing. This time it's in the form of a retro VHS tape. Handily, this retro VHS tape pretty much gives you a recap of the last 7 movies / 30 years of, missions. It works both in story, but also it very much as a previously on Mission Impossible to kind of fill in for anyone who might be watching this having seen none of the previous Mission movies. I would say you do have to have seen most of the Mission movies to fully enjoy this one. Obviously, Dead Reckoning Part 1, you need to have watched that, but I would say equally Mission 1 is important to have seen before you watch Mission 8, Final Reckoning, partly because I really liked how in this movie, more so than any of the other movies, they tie in specific plot points and story points to the previous Mission movies, specifically the first Mission movie and the third Mission movie. There's one specific callback in this movie. It's a callback to the first Mission movie. I'm not going to spoil it. It happens about halfway through the movie. When it happens, if you're a fan of the franchise, you'll recognise it right away, and like me, you'll have a massive smile on your face, and maybe like me, you will literally LOL, you will laugh out loud. It's not a comedy scene, but it's very cool, and it just feels like it was a nice little nod to the fans, almost as if the filmmakers are saying, thanks for sticking with the franchise for 30 years and 8 movies, so this one's for you. So that was a nice wee touch. I thought. So this is the first of the franchise that's a direct sequel to the previous movie. This was originally going to be titled Dead Reckoning Part 2. I believe they changed it because, marketing research showed that having Part 1 and Part 2 maybe wasn't good for the box office. I know that Fallout did kind of follow on from Rogue Nation, but they weren't designed as, 2 parts of one movie. Whereas I think Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Final Reckoning very much are Part 1 and Part 2 of one long movie. As with most Mission movies, if you think about the plot too much, if you think about the MacGuffins and all the coincidences and the sequences of coincidences that have to happen in order for A to get to B to get to C, for Tom Cruise to do this and do that, the plot holes become fairly obvious. This isn't what you go and see a Mission Impossible movie for. You don't go and see it for the believability of it. You go and see it because it's pure entertainment. Something that stood out to me in Final Reckoning more so than any of the other Mission movies, and I suppose this is by design as well, is that given that this is the 8th movie in the franchise, the relationships between the characters feel very, very, very well developed and very much in universe, and you can feel the bond and the history that these characters have, and that plays into the stakes of this movie feeling realer. Is that a word? The consequences of what the bad guys are trying to achieve on a global scale feel more present and more in your face than they have in the other movies. And I mean that as a compliment to the movie. And that kind of ties into the tone of the movie. Tone is something that the Mission Impossible movies have nailed, I think, with all of them. Apart from Mission Impossible 2, that does stand out as being a little bit tone deaf, for lack of a better phrase. That feels like a different movie. But I'm not going to slag Mission 2 too much. I do have a soft spot for Mission 2, and I love John Woo movies, but I digress. Yeah, the tone of Final Reckoning, I think, is on point. The Mission movies, I feel, are what the James Bond movies should have been. When Casino Royale came out, it was very much a kind of a response to the Bourne movies, I reckon. As the Daniel Craig movies progressed, they faltered along the way, and I don't really feel like they found their footing properly until the last movie, until No Time to Die. And in that interim time, the Mission Impossible movies just picked up the ball and ran with it and got their tone correct in every single movie. Again, apart from the second one. The whole filmmaking style, the editing style, everything about it just feels like a masterclass in spy, thriller, action, adventure filmmaking. Everything about it seems top tier. The fact that Tom Cruise is in his 60s and he's still doing these stunts is mental. But even though they do use it as a marketing tool, the fact that it is him doing these stunts, that it is Tom Cruise / Ethan Hunt doing these stunts, it does actually help the story. It does draw you in that little bit more. It does help you be that little bit more invested in the character, in the action, and what's going to happen, because you can see Tom Cruise's face when the wind hits it, because he's strapped to the side of a biplane going God knows how fast it, God knows how high. No amount of perfect CGI can replicate what that actually does to the human body. And you can see that whenever the plane turns and whenever, I don't want to go into too much spoilers, but yeah, Tom Cruise is mental and I'm here for it. There's one sequence in the middle of this movie. It's the submarine sequence. It's about a 20-minute sequence, maybe even 25 minutes. I'm pretty sure it's dialogue free, and it's one of the most thrilling sequences in any of the Mission movies. I haven't quite done a ranking of the stunts of the whole franchise yet, but it might actually be my favourite of the entire franchise. It is genuinely stunning to watch. I don't know whether me seeing it in IMAX played into my enjoyment of it, but holy hell, that submarine sequence is amazing. Speaking of IMAX, I did see it in IMAX. I do believe that did help me enjoy the movie that little bit more. That's not to say that seeing it in a non-IMAX screen will make you enjoy it less, but yeah, watching it in IMAX, the stunts when it fills that screen, it's so sharp and it's in your face and it just envelops you. So if you can see Final Reckoning in IMAX, I would highly recommend it. The cinematography, the sound design, both top tier. The visuals, especially the IMAX scenes, are stunning. They're so sharp and detailed and literally in your face. It's almost like a 3D feeling without the annoying glasses and, the annoying 3D-ness of 3D screenings. I think the editing team deserves a massive shout out as well. This is a 2.5 hour movie, maybe even 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it doesn't feel like it. It zips along at a really good pace. Each 10 to 20 minute scene is tightly edited. Even the dialogue exposition heavy scenes, they don't give you a chance to be bored. They get in, they say what they need to say, it's not boring, and before you know it, you're on to the next shootout or the next heist or the next crazy stunt where Tom Cruise hangs off a plane. You don't get time to be bored, even though it's a 2.5 hour movie. So kudos to the editing team for that. It's absolutely thrilling to watch. I will 100% be going to see this movie again. I'm going to take the kids to see it at the weekend. On that note, you might not think of the Mission Impossible franchise as a family-friendly, family favourite franchise, but the franchise is a favourite in our family. The kids absolutely love the Mission movies. We've just done a Mission Impossible franchise rewatch in the run-up to me taking the kids to see it this weekend, and they love them. They absolutely love the Mission movies. They even do this thing at our local cinema. There's like a promenade walkway that's like maybe 50 or 70 metres, and not every time, but I would say half the time when we go there, they always do what they call they call it the Tom Cruise run. And they just, they run like Tom Cruise along these 50 metres, and before they do it, they get ready as if they're on a mission, as if they're doing one of the stunts, and they'll put on their American accents, and they'll be like, Tom Cruise be like, and then they'll do that run, and it's adorable.
Tom Cruise be like.
the fact that my kids enjoy these movies definitely plays into my enjoyment of the movies. Now, no movie's perfect. There is a few things that stood out as being not so great. The biggest negative of the franchise, and it's true of this movie as well, is the bad guys, the antagonists. Sometimes the bad guys in the Mission movies feel very one-dimensional. Looking at you, Ghost Protocol. In Final Reckoning, Gabriel, played by S.A. Morales, just doesn't come across as that much of a threat, and it doesn't help that he's technically not the main bad guy. He's a henchman to the entity, as it were. So he's not even the main bad guy, and that doesn't help with his character. That being said, I really, really enjoyed this movie. I'm going to go with 8 out of 10 for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. It is pure, unadulterated cinema. The filmmaking team, Tom Cruise and everyone, thank you for entertaining us for 30 years. I enjoyed the first Mission movie as a kid. Well, I think I'd have been maybe 13 or 14 when that came out. I've enjoyed every movie since. My kids enjoy the Mission Impossible movies, and who knows, maybe in 30 years, 90-year-old Tom will be doing crazy stunts for my grandkids to enjoy. Wouldn't that be something? I don't know if this is the final Mission Impossible movie, if Final Reckoning is the final Mission movie, but if it is the final movie in the franchise, you're going out on a high, so well done. It is entertaining as hell. I don't know where it sits in my ranking yet. I need to see it at least one more time before I do my ranking video, but it's definitely going to be up there, probably top 3, I would say. Speaking of ranking, I will do a Mission Impossible ranking video in the next week or two. When that's ready, I will put it on screen and link it below. If I've not recorded it yet, it'll be a random other review that I'll put here somewhere. Yeah, I think that's us. Thanks very much, folks. I will catch you in the next video. You're still here. Welcome to the first ever, I think it's my first ever, post-credits scene. So, I haven't scripted this one, so I'm just going to run through this. This is the story of how I got to see Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning about a week before the general release. I got to see it in what's called an IMAX regional premiere. Now, that isn't as fancy as it sounds. It's just a normal IMAX screen with the normal IMAX showing. It's a ticket that anyone could buy on the Cineworld website or on the Cineworld app. But for some reason, I didn't get an email or a notification about it, so I didn't know what was happening. And this was on Thursday, the whatever it was of May, Thursday before the Wednesday the movie's coming out. So it's Thursday evening, it's 8:17 p.m. There's a message coming through in the group chat with the lads, and it's a picture of, the title card of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning regional premiere at IMAX. And I was like, oh, my mate in London, he stays in London, he must be at this thing that he talked about. Now, I assumed that it was just in London. I assumed it was just a London screening of Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. But no, he said it's happening at Silverburn as well, which was my local cinema. So I was like, what? How the hell did I not know about this? So looking at the time, it's about 8:20 by this point, and the movie is supposed to start at 8:30. My local Cineworld is at best a 12-minute drive, and that's if you really put your foot down. So I thought, there's probably no chance that I'm going to make that. So I did what any sane person would do. I cancelled the live stream that I had planned that evening, jumped in the car, and totally went the speed limit all the way to my local Cineworld. Luckily, because it was a regional premiere, the movie didn't actually start at 8:30. They started the red carpet live stream. The thing where Alex Zane interviews cast and crew and stuff like that on the red carpet. That started at 8:30. The actual movie itself didn't start until I think it was about 8:45 or 8:50. So I got to the cinema with a few minutes to spare. I sat down at 8:47. I took this picture and sent that into the group chat, and mission accomplished. I made it with 3 minutes to spare, and I'm so glad that I did, because yeah, this is an awesome movie. So shout out to my mate who lives in London, who put that picture up in the group chat, because if he didn't do that, I wouldn't have then sped to the cinema to catch the movie as well. There we go. That's the story of how I got to see Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning about 6 days before the general release. And that was my first ever post-credit scene. I wonder if anyone saw this. If you did see this, comment below and say, well, let's think of a random word. Say mangoes.